Okay, so this review is based on the pre-election surveys starting January to May. You'll find the pre-election surveys based on the respondents. The registered voters, those are the pre-election surveys. And we have our 4 quarterly surveys, the Social Weather Report program, where you will see those with adult respondents, 18 years old and above. We also have special surveys conducted in Mega Manila to cover a specific topic on corruption. So those are the basis for our survey review. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. So just like the menu sa ating sari-sari store, this is a lot. But we have the core indicators that SWS regularly monitor, such as economic welfare and quality of life, governance, moral indicators, crime victimization, and public safety and corruption. But for 2025, we have special topics, of course, that's the election. We also look into political dynasty, women in politics, the impeachment case versus Vice President Sara Duterte, and the happenings at the International Criminal Court and President Rodrigo Duterte's war on illegal drugs. So let's see them now. Last year was dominated by public attention to news revolving natural disasters and education, and followed by the happenings revolving the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte by the ICC. As you can see here, sorry, this one. So every quarter we have different topics, and you'll see here the rankings of how much public attention is being given to a specific topic. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. But as you can see, by the time of the second quarter, the news on the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte has already been on top of public's mind. But more than that, the public attention given to the natural disaster is more than any other of these topics. And you would see, for example, if you look at the kinds of topics that receive the least attention, usually these are the international topics, happening like Kings, for example, the Cambodia-Thailand dispute, Japan's Prime Minister, for example. So those are the top news on the public's mind. We have the longest series of poverty monitoring, and this is an innovation by social weather stations, where we show the respondents a card showing the word mahirap or hindi mahirap. It's a 50-50 show card, 50% showing this, the positive show card, and the negative show card for the 50%. And here, you will see that the general trend was down since Corazon Aquino all the way here, down to the start of the Duterte administration, but it was interrupted by the pandemic. We were not able to conduct because it's hard to implement this show card over mobile phones. But we were able to make sure and we'll see that it was at this level, around 50s level after the pandemic. But however, it rose to up to 63% by the end of 2024. So we see 2025 as a recovery from that spike, and we are now here at 51% of families saying they are poor. But there is more to just the poor happening, because it also allows the respondent to point at the, of course, not poor, but also the line. And you see, we call them the borderline. And you see, starting end of sometime mid-2024, that borderline has been shrinking. Meaning, ay napupunta sila dito sa not poor. So that's rather good news because here are the chances of, alleviating poverty. And it shrunk by mid to 2024, and it's now around 10 to 12%. We also asked about 18% of information, hunger. And as you can see here, it rose to a record 30.7% during the time of the pandemic. And we've seen recovery here, but again interrupted by, it went up by 2023, 2024, and it hit as high as 27.2 by start of 2025. I noted here that there's a really, this spike here was during that crisis on the price of rice. We see a recovery, but we would like to see it going down again, just like this one. We also asked about people's state of quality of life compared to 12 months ago. And here, right now, it's not a good picture because the losers outnumber the gainers, 36 versus 29. While it is customary in the past that we see losers outnumbering the gainers, it crossed the end of by mid during the administration of Noynoy Aquino. It overtook losers and it has a good run before COVID. COVID really messed up the quality of life. But we see a recovery again at the start of the Marcos administration. So it's a bad thing to see this red line overtaking the green line. So that's where we are now. But if you look at Filipinos' optimism, there's no shortage of optimism here. It only did to, again, during the worst crisis that ever happened to us. Rice crisis, if it hits our stomach, diyan tayo problema. Not even natural calamities can affect that. It was affected by the COVID, but immediately recovered. We are optimistic about the economy, but not as optimistic when it comes to our personal life. We see the Philippine economy more critically, and we're not as optimistic. And we see a not so nice trend going down here. We are now at 32 versus 26 in terms of economic optimism. Now, about the government social welfare programs, there's a big awareness when it comes to the 4Ps, Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. There's also, but not as high. This is high compared to the Walang Gutom program, only 32% nationwide, saying they are aware of it. But generally, asking those aware of those programs, the dominant opinion is that they see these social welfare programs as beneficial or helpful to underprivileged Filipinos here. Now, we ask about what people think is the most important problem of the country. And historically, it has always been economy, specifically high price of commodities, inflation, etc. But during the pandemic, the category about pandemic-related overtook the economy and even social services. But again, the surprising finding for 2025 is that governance overtook everything else. And under governance, this is where the category of corruption falls. Corruption in governance. It has overtaken economy, it has overtaken social service only in 2025. Traditionally, it's been there low, below 20%, but now it's at 52%. For the next slides, I'll be talking about the ratings of government officials and government institutions. this is just a guide to show you that we express net satisfaction ratings in terms of one number computed by getting the difference between percent satisfied and percent dissatisfied. With excellent having 17 above, execrable 70, minus 70 below. Okay, so for the president, he is right now at -3. It is always normal for every president that as they go along their administration, they tend to go down. It's a gravity effect. But we note here that the last point before they went below +30, that's the honeymoon stage. So for Corazon Aquino, her honeymoon stage lasted 3 and 1/4 years. For Ramos, 2 and 1/4 years. Estrada, 3/4 years. For Arroyo, no honeymoon. For Noynoy Aquino, it lasted 3 and 3/4 years before it went below the yellow line. And former President Duterte did not go below the yellow line. So maybe it's a second honeymoon. We don't know. We always attribute it to geographical support. All Mindanao can carry the national average. But here, President Bongbong Marcos, before he went down below the yellow line, the honeymoon lasted 1.5 years. And he's been on a downward trend, reaching as low as -13 at the start of 2025. It has seen a recovery, but it hovered within the neutral level. For Vice President, we see Vice President Sara Duterte at moderate +28. She has a career that's comparable to Estrada, comparable to Binay. So that's how we do it. We compare presidents with presidents, vice presidents with vice presidents. But it dipped below the yellow line sometime here in before end of 2024, but recovered in start of 2025. So in the moderate zone. Senate President Soto is at +16, and it's not as high as his stint as a Senate President under the Duterte administration. He was here, Zubiri was here, and Escudero was here, but there is a downward trend affecting the Senate presidents. It's a steady downward trend, even for different personalities. The same for the Speaker of the House. Former Romualdez is on a downward trend as we go along the Marcos administration. The Speaker Boji D is at neutral. Yes, comparable to some of this. Chief Justice is at it's at +9, also neutral, but it's on a downward trend. Now we asked about the scorecard. How satisfied are respondents with government performance on different issues? By the way, this is one question asking about the overall national administration, and these are separate questions. It's not an average of the different items. So here we found very good net ratings on improving children's education and helping victims of disaster. And we found good ratings on helping the poor, creating jobs, science and technology, implementing housing for the poor, and so on. We also try to adapt depending on what's the salient issues of the year. For example, we have preparing for volcanic eruptions. It's the first time we asked it, but because the Galburuto, 3 major volcanic systems that we have, we thought of asking this, and it had a moderate net rating. In line of the same category as telling the truth, 24, and ensuring no hungry family. The neutral zone, we saw it's about ensuring all companies do not take advantage of our prices. And the poor or the problem areas we always see traditionally are fighting corruption and fighting inflation. It has been a problem area. Institutional satisfaction, we saw the Senate and the House of Representatives steadily going down. Actually, it's plunging really over the course of the Marcos administration. Compared to this one, it's actually picking up here, going up all the way to the Duterte administration, but here it is suffering. The same with Supreme Court. See, there's a downward trend. So, elections. We were able to do pre-election surveys thanks to our partnership with Strat-based consultancy. And here we monitored the horse race. And how did we fare? We got 9 out of 12 winners. And significant here, very significant. And maybe you know who the 3 candidates that we were unable to get. That's Mama Aquino, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, and Senator Marcoleta. So those are the 3 candidates we're expecting. But we also, the good thing about pre-election is that we get to ask respondents what were their preferred advocacies that they're looking for. So here we saw that jobs, food security, and health are the top advocacies they are looking for in a candidate, and has been steady always since January all the way to pre-election of April. We also asked about the endorsing power, and we found that mayor, immediate family members, and even Rodrigo Duterte are the top endorsers. More than, YouTubers, GMA, Iglesia Cristo, your priest. So there. So it's these top 3. We also asked about their voting behaviors. We found that independent voting is preferred over command voting. We found that conscience voting is preferred over bandwagon voting. See, voting according to one's conscience instead of the voting who you think you would win. We also saw that tactical voting is also supported, voting for the one who think that may win so that hindi masayang yung vote. So yun. Accepting money is supported by 49%, but not far is the 36%. But as long as you vote according to conscience, okay lang tumanggap. Again, they saw that a candidate would win because of popular support instead of machinery. So we see a healthy perspective of the election here. But personality wins over platform. But very small margin. They expected a violent spirit-free election here. They disagree that people are getting hurt because of election-related violence. I also disagree that violence is a part of election. So, no. After election, we thought of asking what were the priorities that Senate and the House should focus on. So, again, education. They should definitely prioritize Senate and House education, agricultural support, and the healthcare and social welfare. They're all strong, they're all supported, but not as much as this one. Education. Just a continuation, we see wages, jobs creation, price control, and governance. Majority, but there are, if you just rank it. We see here a very high positive outlook that after elections, healthcare will improve, it will be better, food security will be better, development of infrastructure, and so on. So we have a very healthy outlook every time we come out of an election. We just hope it happens. No? What should VP Sara do after elections? And clear majority here say that you should collaborate to prioritize nation's need, address the impeachment, focus on her own policies, continue her duties as VP and stop politicizing, and step back from criticizing government. So here, we're asking about political dynasty, and we saw that it is a supported advocacy. If a candidate is advocating for anti-political dynasty, majority would vote. They say would vote for that candidate. But as of April, we asked about people's awareness, and we found 72% have been heard of the anti-political dynasty bill, and 28% saying they heard it during the interview. But we see a mixed opinion with 40% agree, 33% agree, 27% undecided. So it's a neutral opinion. There's no runaway opinion towards favor or disapproval. But you know, why the mixed opinion? Maybe because slightly over half think that political dynasties are generally beneficial. That's why there's no law prohibiting it. As compared to there's no law prohibiting it because it goes against the interest of lawmakers. So there's a sense of that, yeah, maybe it's beneficial. To dig deeper, it is also because people agree that political families use their powers for the benefit of the people. 45 agree for a net agreement of 15. That's 15. That's 45 minus 13. And also, if the family has a competent and good track record, proven track record, yes, they agree to this. It's not bad to have political dynasty if they're doing good. Well, we also asked about women, and we see here that strong agreement that women in politics would most likely advocate for social issues, and that women are better at governance than men. High agreement. High agreement that it would be difficult for women to be in a political environment if they're not from a family of politicians. 55, 53. About VP Sara's impeachment, they agree, majority agree that 10 minutes. Oh, sorry. They agree that, VP Sara should address all the allegations. But at the same time, if we ask about their awareness, yes, over half knew about the fourth impeachment complaint. We asked about their opinion about that fourth impeachment, and we see that support tends to be, either leaning towards disagreement, especially if you look at the difference between areas, we see a strong disagreement in Mindanao about that fourth impeachment complaint. They also believe that the Senate is delaying the impeachment trial. This is as of June of 2025. So when we proceeded to September 2025, we asked their awareness about the Supreme Court's decision to nullify the impeachment complaint, and 53% are aware of it previously. The other 47 knew about it during the survey, and we saw a 42% agreement that with the Supreme Court decision to nullify the fourth impeachment. But it's a not plus A. So basically, it's a neutral. Not overwhelmingly agree because there's 34% disagree and 17 undecided. About the 19 senators' decision to discontinue or archive the impeachment case, yes, a lot learned of it during the interview, 55, but agreement tend to be positive. Plus 15, 45 agree, 38 disagree. And we just repeated that this question, we found an overwhelming agreement, overwhelming support that Vice President Sara Duterte must address the impeachment charges to be able to answer all allegations of corruption charges filed against her. Yeah. About ICC, we saw 50% agree that even before from Feb to September, that former President Duterte should be held accountable for the killings related to illegal drugs during his. So the drug war, highly supported that he should be held accountable, and very close attention to what's happening to President Duterte in the ICC, his detention. We asked about, what the defense filed for, that there be an interim release while he's waiting for the hearing, and we saw a support, 61% agree to the defense team's appeal for an interim release. But, with all those opinion, we saw a plurality, confident that the ICC will conduct the trial fairly. And about President Duterte's capacity to stand trial, the majority opinion believe that his mental capacity can only be determined if the trial proceeds. So yeah. Is my time good? Okay, we also asked about Senator De La Rosa because, it's all over news na nawawala siya. They agree that Senator De La Rosa should also be held accountable, 53%, and that he should be detained in the ICC, 44%. Corruption has been, the flavor of the year for 2025, and we saw here that, the majority of the public believe that corruption is wrong because it hurts the country's development. It's even higher now compared to the past, 77. And these shaded patterned bars are from our surveys of enterprises. These are enterprise managers saying that corruption is wrong because it hurts the country's development. And the extent has been even more severe now compared to before. While these are, voting age Filipinos answering, and these are enterprise managers, that's already a lot. 75% saying there's a lot of corruption in the public sector. And where are these corruption happening? Number one, national. Number two, provincial level. Number three, city, then barangay, then the police, and the military. So there's a slightly lower extent of corruption the closer you are to that organization or agency. But we found a sad finding that, how often are they punished? 31%, almost never. It has been high for 2 consecutive rounds. Seldom, it's not a significant increase if you look at the often, and it has not changed ever since it's 2012, even with the enterprise managers. So yeah, sad. And effectiveness. Are they effective? The steps taken by the present administration. Unfortunately, the majority say it's not at all effective. It's hardly effective. We tested in our Mega Manila survey if they associate poorly built or unfinished government projects with corruption, and yes, there's an overwhelming agreement that poor infrastructure is corruption. How sincere are these organizations in fighting corruption? Sincere, net sincerity, very sincere minus not sincere, SSS on top, DepEd, the municipal government. But let's look at the problem areas. DBM, Senate, House of Rep, especially by ending the House of Rep, Board of Customs, Bureau of Customs, and DPWH, all of them, minus 43. We tested in Mega Manila if the application of electronic, making everything electronic would reduce corruption. And Well, yeah, we see 49% agree. Almost similar with enterprise managers. And how effective are certain suggestions in reducing corruption? You'll see here that we coded these responses in red fonts as punishment, punish, penalties, cases, suspension, penalties. While the blue fonts are transparency, monitor, broadcast, SAL-N. So transparency, while the black font are policy reforms, prohibit government, require regularly attend more information seminars, etc. So you see, we are looking for punishments. We've been monitoring crime victimization since 1989. So, and while it has been on a downward trend, it picked up during Marcos administration. Cybercrime, 6.2, pickpocket. So there's a slightly upward trend happening over the Marcos administration. And while we saw fear of burglary and unsafe streets declining during the Duterte administration, it has stabilized. It's not going down. It's not, hopefully not going up, but this one went up. Many drug addicts. So the fear remains. We asked about, Filipino sympathy about the Middle East conflict, and we saw that the majority opinion is siding with neither, but the opinion leans to supporting both the Palestine and the Israelis, with a very slight leaning of the opinion, but it's very small for support for the Israelis. Trust ratings, traditionally, the most trusted country remain the USA. Here, good trust ratings for USA, Canada, moderate for, good for Japan, moderate for Australia, Taiwan, Mexico, neutral for Israel, Malaysia, Ukraine, Russia, and Indonesia, but poor for the Palestine, Iran, and China, traditionally. We saw how people trust Trump, and this is where it is. But he is comparable with Biden, definitely not comparable with Obama, slightly with G.W. Bush over there. There is great support to further strengthen our hold of the territories, by forming alliances. 77 agree. Fake news, how serious? Majority for media, 62, even for internet, 59. And how hard it is it to assess fake news? Unfortunately, we find it very difficult. Very difficult, 22, somewhat difficult, 43. And frequency, again, it's not good, often, sometimes. We asked about Parent Welfare Act of 2025, and 75% heard about it only during the survey, but we found that 91% support that it is good for the country because it ensures that the children fulfill their responsibility so that elderly will not be abandoned. We also asked about love and respect, and 89%. Regardless of what qualities or faults one parents are, one must always love and respect them. 89%. And also, 86% believe that it's the parents' duty to do their best for their children, even at the expense of their own well-being. This versus to us, against parents have a life of their own and should not be asked to sacrifice their own well-being. So yeah, parents, they have their duties, as seen by 86%. We also ask a few questions about gender, and here we see a traditional support for man is to earn and women is to look after the family, 83%. But there's also support for, it is being a housewife is just as fulfilling as a working uh, woman, 81. The job, although job is all right, but those are really what is home with children, 75. Also, very high agreement that the working mother can also be as warm and secure with their children as mothers who don't have jobs. But also there's agreement that children are likely to suffer if their mother works, and half that all in all family life suffer when a woman has full-time job. Okay, last section. There's no shortage of happiness with life, and there's no shortage of satisfaction with life. Although this is tourism. Parang lumalaki. But in terms of freedom of speech, there's also no shortage of it. And while it's going down, it's still high. We are satisfied with how democracy works. And we still prefer democracy over with authoritarianism. We are proud to be Filipinos. Hi. And last Christmas, we saw happiness picking up. So that's a good news. We also saw people thankful for their good health, family, and being alive. And 89% entered the new year with hope rather than with fear. But we also saw that, 66% suffer daily stress. And what are those stress from? Financial situation, health, job, school, or family. And how do they cope? We pray, we rest, we go out. So work-life balance. And last Valentine, we saw that, yes, it's 46, but it's low. It's record low. Happiness with love life. But married couples continue to be happier compared to those with living partners and those without spouse or partner. We found that 27% experience or witness some form of cheating in a relationship. What are those cheating? Physical cheating, emotional cheating, cyber cheating, and so on. But 4 out of 10 believe that trust can still be restored even after someone cheated. And with that, I end my survey review. Thank you very much.